Today I'm going to start with a story, Cipher in the Snow, a true story by Gene Meiser. It started with tragedy on a biting cold February morning. I was driving behind the Milford Corners bus as I did most snowy mornings on my way to school. It veered and stopped short at the hotel, which it had no business doing, and I was annoyed, as it had come to an unexpected stop. A boy lurched out of the bus, reeled, stumbled, and collapsed on the snowbank at the curb. The bus driver and I reached him at the same moment. His thin, hollow face was white, even against the snow. "He's dead," the driver whispered. It didn't register for a minute. I glanced quickly at the scared young faces staring down at me from the bus. "Doctor, quick! I'll phone from the hotel." "No use, I tell you. He's dead." The driver looked down at the boy's still form. He didn't ever even said he felt bad. He just muttered and tapped me on the shoulder and said, real quiet, "I'm sorry. I have to get off at the hotel." That's all. Polite and apologizing like. At school, the giggling, shuffling morning noise quieted as news went down the halls. I passed a huddle of girls. Who was it? Who dropped dead on the way to school? I heard one of them half whisper. "Don't know his name. Some kid from Milford Corners," was the reply. It was like that in the faculty room and the principal's office. "I'd appreciate your going out to see the family and tell the parents," the principal told me. "They haven't had a phone, and anyway, somebody from the school should go. I'll cover your classes." "Why me?" I asked. "Wouldn't it be better if you did it?" "I didn't know the boy," the principal admitted levelly. "And in last year's sophomore personalities column, I noted that you were listed as his favorite teacher." I drove through the snow and cold down the Bad Canyon Road to the Evanses' place. And the thought about the boy, Cliff Evans, his favorite teacher, I thought. He hasn't spoken 2 words to me in 2 years. I could see him in my mind's eye all right, sitting back there in the last seat in my afternoon literature class. He came in the room by himself and left by himself. Cliff Evans, I muttered to myself, a boy who never talked. I thought a minute. A boy who never smiled. I never saw him smile once. The big ranch kitchen was clean and warm. I blurted out my news somehow. Mrs. Evans reached blindly toward a chair. "He never said nothing about being ailin'." His stepfather snorted. "He ain't said nothing about anything since I moved in here." Mrs. Evans pushed the pan to the back of the stove and began to untie her apron. "Now hold on," her husband snapped. "I gotta have breakfast before I go to work." "Nothing we can do now anyway. If Cliff hadn't been so dumb, he'd have told us he didn't feel good." After school, I sat in the office, stared blankly at the records spread out before me. I was to read the file and write the obituary for the school paper. The almost bare sheets mocked the effort. Cliff Evans, white. Never legally adopted by stepfather. 5 young half-brothers and sisters. These meager strands of information and the list of D grades were all the records had to offer. Cliff Evans had silently come in the school door in the mornings and gone out the school door in the evenings. And that was all. He had never belonged to a club. He had never played on a team. He had never held an office. As far as I could tell, he had never done one happy, noisy kid thing. He had never been anybody at all. How do you go about making a boy into a 0? The grade school records showed me. The first and second year teachers' annotations read, "Sweet, shy child, timid but eager." Then the 3rd grade note had opened the attack. Some teacher had written in a good firm hand, "Cliff won't talk. Uncooperative. Slow learner." The other academic sheep had followed with dull, slow-witted, low IQ. They became correct. The boy's IQ score in the 9th grade was listed at 83, but his IQ in the 3rd grade had been 106. The score didn't go under 100 until the 7th grade. Even the shy, timid, sweet children have resilience. It takes time to break them. I stomped to the typewriter and wrote a savage report, pointing out what education had done to Cliff Evans. I slapped a copy on the principal's desk. In another sad, dog-eared file, I banged the typewriter, slammed the file, and crashed the door shut. But I didn't feel much better. A little boy kept walking after me, a little boy with a peaked, pale face, a skinny body and faded jeans and big eyes that had looked and searched for a long time and then had become veiled. I could guess how many times he had been chosen last to play sides in a game. How many times a whispered child conversations had excluded him. How many times he hadn't been asked. I could see and hear the faces that said over and over, "You're nothing, Cliff Evans." A child is a believing creature. Cliff undoubtedly believed them. Suddenly it seemed clear to me when finally there was nothing left at all for Cliff Evans. He collapsed on a snowbank and went away. The doctor might list heart failure as the cause of death, but that wouldn't change my mind.
Oh my gosh.
We couldn't find 10 students in the school had known Cliff well enough to attend his funeral as friends. So the student body officers and the committee from junior class went as a group to the church, being politely sad. I attended the services with them and sat through it with a lump of cold lead in my chest and a big resolve growing through me. I've never forgotten Cliff Evans, nor that resolve. He has been my challenge, year after year, class after class. I look for veiled eyes or bodies scrounged into a seat in an alien world, and I say, "Look, kids," silently. "I may not do anything else for you this year, but not one of you is going to come out of here as a nobody. I'll work or fight to the bitter end, doing battle with society and the school board, but I won't have one of you coming out of here thinking himself or herself into a zero. Most of the time. Not always, but most of the time I've succeeded." Gene Meiser. So every year at the beginning of the year, I start with this story. And if you're LDS, you might remember the 70s and 80s films from BYU Church Productions. I grew up on it. But reading the story had so much more impact to it, and I do mean it. Every year I discuss what it means to have respect. I'll ask them what respect means, and most often the overwhelming response is that respect is earned. You give disrespect if you feel that you aren't respected or treated the way you feel you should be, etc. Then we discuss what real respect means, at least to me. Seeing every human being for who they are. And I can't say this, but a child of God. Worthy of respect simply by existing, no matter how they've behaved or treated us. Why? Because we respect ourselves enough to respect them. When we act badly, it doesn't matter what the other person did to deserve it. We still see how you behaved, and that's what stays and matters and what I see. I don't see what they did all the time, but I do see what you did. We respect ourselves enough to do what is right, no matter what others do or say. That's integrity, which is really what Cipher in the Snow as a story boils down to for me. Respect. How we react and behave towards other, and the real impact we can have, even if unintentional or intentional. So every year and every day of the school year, I pray I'm going to reach the one and find the one who needs to be seen and heard and understood. I try to help those in my class understand their impact, the value of a smile, of saying hi to someone we don't know, of reaching out and making sure someone is okay, even if they aren't in our friend group, or maybe even someone we don't get along with. To listen with respect and understanding, even when we disagree. I know, a new idea, right? Maybe someone should tell Congress or half the politicians out there. Here's the thing, though. I was about 9 years ago. I was teaching a class and we were covering Frankenstein. Another place where someone new comes into town and looks different, and the first thing they do is avoid, disparage, and even hurt the creature. And why? Because they're afraid. We talk about that. What makes us do things out of fear? So I asked them in their journal, what are you afraid of? Now I got the typical answers: spiders, the dark, trains, being alone, etc. Now none of those are wrong or bad, but one stopped me in my tracks. As I read, I'm afraid to be me. Okay, wow. He wasn't a bad kid. They were quiet, didn't actively engage in discussions, but they did do their work and kept up on things. The next sentence has explained it further, though. I'm afraid to say anything because they don't feel I have the right to exist or have a say in anything. It wasn't they were afraid of being who they were because they were bad or there was something wrong with them, or even that there was something controversial. Simply that they didn't feel like those around them found value in their opinion, ideas, or being, simply because they were born who they were born as, that they had no control over it. And that stopped me in my tracks. 12 years of teaching and telling this story, nothing had hit me like that before from any of my students. I thought back to even myself at that age and how I had been not accepted. Didn't feel I could speak out, be myself without being made fun of or criticized. It was the love of a couple of teachers, though, who saw me and helped me find my voice in spite of it all, who showed me I could be something. It was finding a few really good friends, not just superficial ones, and also remembering that my family loved me. I know. Teenagers have it hard. Teenagers don't understand this, and it's hard to remember that in the moment. But when I did, and I remembered that they appreciated me, even when I didn't feel like it at the time, it helped. But I look around now and I see that it isn't just teenagers. There are so many of us in the world that don't feel we have a voice, a place to be heard, or to be who we are, especially with the divisions in politics, society, social media, all the voices in our heads. But each voice is important, not those ones in our heads, but our voice. And it's a light. And what you say and what you do needs to be heard. I didn't think my voice mattered, my stories, my message was important or of value. However, I was inspired to write it. And even though it took me 20 plus years between starting my first novel and abandoning it and then restarting it, I did finish it. Thank you to Richard Paul Evans, for Debbie Eiler Rasmussen, and the Author Ready family for doing so. Thank you. And though I haven't sold as many as I'd like, and that can get really frustrating sometimes, I pray every time that those who need to read the story will. That those who need to hear the words and the message will find it and hopefully be better for it. And if I've had a part in helping them find something to help them, then it's done some good. I didn't know why I was being inspired to start this podcast. When it first hit me, who was I to start something? I'm not famous. I don't have influence. I'm a teacher, and I do my little world, and I go about my day. But it nagged at me for a while. And then I had so many things get in the way of it get started. Hospitalizations, life things, all the world, right? But still it nagged. It hung at the edges of my brain. So I delved into what you do for a podcast and how to do this and what this was supposed to be. And it's finally come to me why. To give a spaces for those voices, for the stories, for their things that they want to share, and the individuals who need the message that these others have to share. So if you needed to hear this message today, know you are loved. You are of worth, and you too have a message and a light to share with others, whether it's in your job, your family, or in creating something for yourself. It is of value. And please do it. Share yourself, and you will be surprised at how you will grow. I know I have. So please share, spread the message, and hopefully, maybe one of these days, I'll have you in here with me as well to share your story. Talk to you later. Know you are loved.